Today I want to review multiplying fractions with a whole number. And I'm using as an example here 6 times 1/2. I want to remind you that multiplication at any time is just repeated adding. So 6 times 1/2 is the same thing as 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2. It's 6 1/2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 1/2. So if you add those all together, I kind of group them. And I have 2 1/2 is a whole, 2 1/2 is a whole, 2 1/2 is a whole. And if I add those three together, I have 3. So 6 times 1/2 equals 3. I wanted you to see this visual also, that here are 6 1/2. And if I take those and I move this half up here, get rid of that one. I move this one up here, get rid of that one. Move this one up here, get rid of that one. You can see the visual picture also here of 3 wholes. So again, 6 times 1/2, the repeated adding 1/2 6 times equals 3. So I want you to see another example, because we're not going to each time go 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2. So if we had 8 times 1/2, the way we would solve that mathematically is we know that 8 is the same thing as 8 over 1. That means 8 wholes. And so if I have 8 over 1 times 1/2, that's the same thing as this problem. This is the same thing. I know the rule in multiplying fractions is I multiply the numerator, I multiply the denominator. So if I multiply across, 8 times 1 is 8, 1 times 2 is 2, I have 8 over 2. If I say 8 divided by 2, that equals 4. Pretty simple. But you know, in all cases, that all the problems aren't always that simple. So I'm going to look at one that's maybe a little bit more complicated here. 4 times 1/3. So 4 times 1/3 is the same thing as 4 over 1 times 1 over 3, because 4 wholes is the same thing as 4 over 1. In multiplication of fractions, we always multiply the numerators together. 4 times 1 is 4, and then we multiply the denominators. 1 times 3 is 3. So I end up with 4 over 3, which is an improper fraction. Improper because the numerator is larger than the denominator. And usually you want to simplify that. And you simplify that by dividing the denominator into the numerator. So I've set it up for us. 3 into 4 goes 1 time. 1 times 3 is 3. I subtract, and I have 1 left over. I have 1 out of 3 left over. So my answer is 1 1/3. So that tells me that 4/3 is the same thing as 1 1/3. Okay? So let's do one more example together, because you're going to have some to do this week. And let's look at the problem 2/3 times 7. 2/3 times 7 is the same thing as 2/3 times 7 over 1, because that's representing 7 wholes. And I know that I'm always multiply. The rule is in multiplying fractions, multiply numerator to numerator, denominator to denominator. So I've got 2 times 7 equals 14. 3 times 1 is 3. Again, improper fraction because the numerator is larger than the denominator. So I'm going to divide to simplify that. I divide the denominator into the numerator, because this says 14 divided by 3. 14 divided by 3. So 3 goes into 14 how many times? 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Subtract. I have 2 left over. I'm dealing with fractions, so my answer is probably going to have a fraction in it. I'm going to have 2 out of 3 left. 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 left. So, I'm changing this improper fraction to 4 2/3. You know what? I can double check that to see if that's right. I can double check 4 2/3 to see if it actually equals this way. 3 times 4 is 12, and add 2 more is 14 over 3. That's how I change it to an improper fraction. So I do have the correct answer. So this week, you're going to do just a few problems like this. Review this if you need to look it over.